this side. How are we doing?
You got about a foot.
We're cleared over here.
Oh, that mirror is small.
Yeah. See, some people are smart and put their mirrors in.
You know,
Wait, my mirror.
you guys said you have to pay for this part of the trip. This is all free. Yeah, this is the free part. This is what we call the entertainment. This is called suspense. This is the psych part right here. This is the psych part right here, folks.
The students at Hack, basically the students I've had, you make you want to do things for them because they're so polite and so nice. I could kick them in the butt to work harder and get better grades, but I've never had well, I shouldn't say I've never, but I could count on the fingers of one hand the students that have bothered me at Hack over the years. And it makes you want to be a teacher. It makes you feel like you're fulfilling your life. And then when you get a group like this, like I said, it's hard not to cry on an evening like this, isn't it, David?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
75 years ago, back in around 1950, he said, why don't we make a trail where we actually have embedded into the sidewalks an actual thing that visitors can follow that takes them to the major historical parts of Boston. Well, they set up this trail, and you'll see where we're going to be walking once we get on it. It's real easy to follow. There's 16 major sites. It goes all the way from Boston Common, where you were yesterday, all the way up to Bunker Hill, where we were yesterday. Okay. It seems like a long way, but Boston was a relatively small town back then. Most of where we are right now, this was all water at the time. This is landfill now. That is the Charles River over there. The Freedom Trail is probably today about 3.5 miles long. We're only going to be walking about a mile of it, or a little bit more than that, so it's not going to be very horrible for you. There are many other little sites and things to tell you about on the way, and so you'll have to kind of just pay attention because we're on like a real class tour now. The Charles River there is important because the British had to decide when they're going to march to Lexington, remember in Concord on April 19th, 1775, which way they're going to go. Well, they decided to go across the Charles River. The Patriots needed to know that, and that's why from World War I we're going up there, and that's why those planners were going up there to let the rioters know, like Paul Revere and William Dawes, that the British were going across this river. So where we are was part of the river. Oh, yes, yes. So you guys can tell then from where the water line was back then that this is fairly close to where the river was. But being the highest point in Boston also, and with fewer houses, it was easily spotted from across the river. Yeah, now there's no tour that we're going to go on here. They do offer tours, but we're not going to take the tours. But look around, read any of the historical markers, get what you can out of it, enjoy the architecture, the history of it. We'll meet back out on the other side. It's called Paul Revere Mall, but there's no Banana Republic there, or Cinnabons, or Bed Bath & Beyond. So it's a different kind of mall. We'll meet on the other side in about 15 minutes, all right?
guys. So we are at Cheers Boston restaurant. We are actually at the replica one because I believe the original is in Beaconsfield, which is like several blocks away. And we are here with the whole gang. We're gonna enjoy some lunch, and then we are meeting the rest of the at the Sam Adams Club, right? So, anyways, check the restaurant out. Do a 360.
Where everybody knows your name.
We are in Quincy Market. Dude, I love this place. There's so much food in here. You can literally walk through this pathway and there's food to your left and there's food to your right and there's food from everywhere. So we have from like Asian to Italian to sandwiches to ice cream, everything. It's amazing. And outside Quincy's Market, you can find shops, and you can find street performances, and it's just beautiful. We just had an amazing lunch and Cheers, where everybody knows your name. You should guys definitely check this place out.
Dragon Rail notes. 1742, he proposes putting a market here. It was kind of controversial. A lot of the other merchants didn't want a marketplace there. They thought that that market would compete with them, which I'm sure that it did. But that particular building you see there and the market you see behind it has been here ever since colonial days. That particular building was at one time the largest building in Boston, and therefore they held a lot of meetings there. But as we get closer to the Revolution, it becomes too small. In fact, the meeting that was being held there on the 5th of March of 1770, that room up there became too small, so they had to move the meeting to a place called South Meeting House, which I hope we can get in today. It's part of the tour. That's called Faneuil Hall. Now, this particular building was the state capitol, colonial capital building, meaning that when we're under British rule, this is where the British offices would be. Okay, and you have the courts in here, and all the British officials in here. As a consequence, it's known as the Old State House. Now, in 1770, in late February, a young boy will be killed here in Boston. Let me find the name of the young boy that was killed here. Not that easy. Christopher Sider was his name, S-E-I-D-E-R, S-E-I-D-E-R, taking notes. Late February 1770, he's 11 years old. He's killed by a British sympathizer. Now in 1770, this is before anybody was thinking about independence, long before the battles at Lexington and Concord, 4 years before that. It was before the Declaration of Independence by 6 years, but people are starting to feel a lot of unrest because of those intolerable acts I told you about the other day. The tax on tea eventually will become a point of contention between the British and the colonists, but the British that are here collecting taxes and using British soldiers, 4 regiments of British soldiers are sent here. That's over 4,000 British soldiers in this little town that only has 16,000 people. That means 1 out of every 4 people in Boston at that time would be wearing a red British soldier's uniform, helping to collect taxes. There was a lot of animosity and a lot of problems here. Well, this young boy is just in a crowd of people that are protesting one particular colonist, a fellow by the name of Ebenezer Richardson, and he worked at the customs office that was across the street, the British customs office. What's the customs office? And incoming imports. There was a scuffle down the street. An American who was a British sympathizer who worked there, fires his weapon down the street and he kills this young boy, this 11-year-old boy. The town is livid. They are so angry. And Sam Adams uses this as an opportunity for propaganda. And he sets up this huge funeral for this 11-year-old boy. This 11-year-old boy becomes a martyr, but all it does is fan the flames of animosity between the British and the American colonists. And it's only going to be 2 weeks later that we have the Boston Massacre. What happens then? With all of this background, on the night of March the 5th, a private Hugh White is across the street guarding the hospital. A young man by the name of Edward Garrett, who was just an apprentice for a wig maker, sees him and starts yelling at him and starts cursing at him because he claims that White owes his master money for one of his wigs, apparently. And there's a scuffle over there, and it attracts attention. And the next thing you know, the British private soldier, White, takes the butt of his musket and strikes Garrett in the side of the head. That causes more attention, and pretty soon, before you know it, somebody gives the signal, set off some of the church alarms or church bells. So church bells start ringing. When church bells start ringing in a town like Boston at that time, what does that usually mean? Fire? But usually church bells ringing in the nighttime would be a signal for what? Fire. I appreciate all these tries, but we got it.
Fire.
Fire. Okay, now there wasn't a fire, but eventually somebody must say fire, right? But it does draw a crowd of about 50 people. Now these 50 people all hate the British. Or I'm sorry, all hate the Redcoats because they're all British. And they start picking up snowballs and throwing them at them. Now, the streets were dirt back then. When you make a snowball in a dirt street, what might that snow contain? Yeah, rocks and stones and things like that. So they were dangerous projectiles. The next thing you know, there are going to be between 300 and 400 colonists down there who are shouting and throwing things at these British soldiers because Captain Preston will call out a group of soldiers with fixed bayonets to relieve White. Okay, and a colonist by the name of Henry Knox, after Fort Knox's name, he became later on the artillery officer for Washington. He will try to calm things down, but the crowd now is getting out of control. One of the soldiers is knocked down and clubbed. Captain Preston, the British, is knocked down and clubbed all the way across the street. The action is starting to move in this direction, actually, as the soldiers are inching forward. The colonists are there, maybe they're backing up a little bit. And at one point, even though Preston never gave the order to fire, shots rang out, and 11 Bostonians will be hit. 3 die immediately. Samuel Gray, James Caldwell, and an African American by the name of
Crispus Attucks.
A 17-year-old boy named Samuel Maverick will die later that night, and another fellow, Patrick Carr, will die 2 weeks later of the wounds out there. Immediately, the Governor Hutchinson, who is very pro-British, he knows that he's got a situation on his hand now because blood has been shed. Okay? 2 years later, it won't be blood, it will be property that will be shed. That'll even be worse when we have the Boston Tea Party. But now we have 5 colonists laying dead, and they're commemorated right here on this particular circle. However, they will fall dead in various places around this area here. So they're kind of spread out. So they didn't all die right here in the circle. That's just to commemorate them. There'll be an investigation. The town of Boston will set up a court. These 5 soldiers that they put on trial, 8 soldiers, will be accused of murder. Sam Adams, the cousin of John Adams, the cousin of Sam Adams, will become the chief defense attorney for these soldiers. And he actually gets 6 of the 8 acquitted of the charge of manslaughter. The other 2 are convicted of manslaughter. Do you know what their punishment was? In open court in front of everybody, they had the letter M branded into their thumb. That was their punishment. Now, that was common back then. Okay, first of all, the letter M stood for what? Well, murder or manslaughter, right? Probably murder. And back then, when you branded somebody, they were branded for life. And that's a term we use sometimes. You know, somebody was branded a coward. Sometimes a coward in the military, they brand the letter C on his forehead. So they're branded a coward. Or you're branded a thief. So to say you're branded means that you have been indicated, but for the rest of your life, people will be able to tell that you at one time committed this crime or were guilty of this particular action. And that becomes the Boston Massacre. And it's this guy, Paul Revere, that we talked about earlier, who wasn't even here, based on, what he heard, he will engrave this beautiful engraving that you've all seen and it's printed in color here in Boston, and copies of it are set up and down the 13 colonies. It was the, what do you call it, tweeter of the day, or Twitter, or the internet of the day, or whatever, because even people that were illiterate could look at this particular engraving. Now, you know, when they printed it on paper, of course, they could look at it and they could make up their own minds. Yeah, look at the British. They're all standing there, they're tall with their muskets pointing down. The colonists are all like this. And if you look at the engraving very carefully, there are little kids in it that are cowering down and being shot at. There's even a little American dog. We call him a canine American. Okay, he's being shot at by the British. And so it's used as propaganda. And it further inflames things. However, the British back in London are horrified. They're mortified that blood was shed here. Cooler heads here in America, like John Adams, are mortified. And things calmed down for a short period after the Boston Massacre. Because after 1770, after that march in 1770, not much else is going to go on until the Gaspee incident, which is a naval incident that took place a little bit further north in here I won't get into. But nothing else happens until the British start to not only tax tea, but they give a monopoly to the British East India Tea Company starting in 1773, and the Americans are so angry about that we start throwing tea overboard. But the Boston Tea Party did not cause the American Revolution, but boy, it got a lot of people on the side of people that are starting to think that way. They're real small, they're not necessarily little kids, they're just footstones, and that's how they identify people. However, even though there are only 2,300 identifiable graves, they estimate that there are up to 8,000 people actually buried here. So again, they were buried back then haphazardly, sometimes several deep, just like the other cemetery at King's Church that we went through. And even the table, or the above ground vaults back there, they're called table vaults or table tombs. They may typically hold several bodies from a family, even if there's only one name on the vault. Okay, as you enter the graveyard, the first thing you'll notice is what name right in front of us there.
Franklin.
Yeah, now that's not Benjamin Franklin. He's buried in Philadelphia. As I said, we'll see that hopefully on the trip. There's no reason we can't see that, or just drive by it looking for parking. But his parents were buried here, and the people of Boston are quite proud of that. James Otis, you may remember that name. He's buried here. He was the guy that gave the impassioned speech at the Boston State House in 1761, long before the Revolution, where he told the British to take it and shove it over a thing called the writs of assistance. We would call those things today illegal search and seizure, right? We'd call those things today writs of assistance, search warrants, and nobody likes the cops to come to you and say, I've got a search warrant, you know, or go to the airport, take off your clothes or something. I mean, that's almost what it was like today. Well, he's buried here. And he's considered to be one of the first people to come up and be rebellious against the British. However, James Otis was always, until the day he died, a loyal British citizen. He never would have joined the revolutionary cause. But he inspired people like John Adams to join the revolutionary cause later on. Otis, if you recall, if you don't recall anything else, he was the guy that was syphilitic, came down with syphilis, and it caused him to go crazy. Okay.
That's a psychological disorder, because what happens is it's an infection that gets into your brain, and then of course causes you to get...
Well, let's tie it together. We're going to see the temporary home place of a person on this trip who also will die of syphilis. And that person's temporary home we will see in Philadelphia at a place called Eastern State Penitentiary. And that would be the cell of Alphonse Capone. Alphonse Capone, right? Now, I'm not going to point it out because I want you guys to have some fun and get some pictures if you want to. You don't have to, but I want you to find the grave of John Hancock. Let me tell you something about John Hancock's grave. The original monument was stolen in the 1800s. There are many rumors regarding what might have happened to Hancock's remains, as the grave remained open for some time when the original marker was stolen. One rumor has asserted that the ring-laden hand that Hancock used to sign the Declaration of Independence was cut off and stolen. So somebody, while his grave was open, cut off his ring finger and stole his finger and the ring. And that was the finger that helped sign the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
That's quite an artifact.
Well, I guess he gave somebody the finger.
Next to John Hancock's grave is a grave where the stone reads, Frank, servant to John Hancock, Esquire. what particular position do you think Frank had? And see what you can tell me about Frank when you come back, when you find Hancock's grave and Frank's grave.
There you go. And is there another grave here?
Yes, so I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to have
Okay,
them
I'm sorry.
further.
I'm sorry. I beat you to the punch. Okay, I'm sorry.
I would like you to also try to find the white marble grave of a fellow you heard of a little bit of this trip by the name of Paul Revere. He's buried here. Peter Faneuil, Faneuil Hall, where we spent the last couple of days, and I'm sure some of you will spend some time tomorrow. He is buried here. But probably the two most famous people that are buried here, well, actually, Christopher Sider, the little boy, the 11-year-old that was killed prior to the Boston Massacre, he's buried here. All 5 of the Boston Massacre victims are buried here. And then there are 2 other graves I would definitely like you to find. One is, if you notice across the street, despite the construction, there is the Beantown Pub. Over there, you can go and get yourself a cold Sam Adams.
Sam Adams.
In this cemetery, I'd like you to find a real cold Sam Adams. Okay? And finally, I would like you to find maybe the grave that people ask about the most. There's a woman by the name of Mary Vergoose, or Vertigoose, sometimes better known as Mother Goose, is buried there. So, Sam Adams, Boston Massacre, Mother Goose, Paul Revere, and John Hancock especially.
My name is Brian, and I'll be your tour guide tonight. We are going into our most exclusive neighborhood in Boston, the Beacon Hill area, where the creme de la creme of Boston live, and they always have. When we get to that neighborhood, I'm going to point out some of the architecture up there, because you might want to see that, and I'll show you some stuff there. But this is more about the crimes up there, right? I'm going to discuss a couple of crimes that happened in the 1800s that are really bizarre. And some of the stuff you're gonna go, this really happened in this neighborhood. It's unbelievable what happened up there. And then the big one though is the Boston Strangler. Now the Boston Strangler had 13 victims in total, but he had 2 up on Beacon Hill. And so I'm gonna take you by one of the houses of his last victim. And the second victim, I don't go by there anymore because I used to, when I first started this tour, I would go by there and it was a death march. It was like you walk all the way, and it was like, it was too long and people were like getting tired. People from Texas who don't walk a lot, they do like this, So I'm not gonna do that to you. So, but I will tell you about the second victim up there and tell you all the details if you like. Here's where I need your help though, because I need you guys to tell me something. There's 2 ways I can do this tour. I can do this tour 1 or 2 ways. I can actually give you what I call the R-rated version, which means I go by the crime scenes. I'm talking about the Boston Strangler here, because the other stuff I'm just gonna let it rip. But the Boston Strangler is a little bit kind of, all right, very kind of like, he would display the bodies in really strange ways. I know what went on in those apartments. I read police reports. I downloaded it. All right. So the Boston Strangler in particular. So I can give you the R-rated version on that. Or I can give you more of a PG-13 version. I can still go around there and show you the scenes, but I don't have to get into gory details.
I vote for the pirate.
All right, everyone that wants the R-rated version, raise your hand. Right there. Only once somebody said no. Now listen, if you didn't raise your hand, and I don't want to freak you out, all right? I'll let you know when I'm going to talk all this stuff, and just like go like that. You're not going to miss any information, really. I don't do it to freak you out anyway. I do it because it gives you more of an insight to this Boston Strangler and the psychology he was using. He was displaying bodies, he was communicating. When they do that, they communicate. They communicate with the police. And George Parkman was a medical doctor, and I'm talking 1840s. And George Parkman was actually the president of Harvard Medical College. Very predominant Bostonian. George Parkman, by the way, was one of the richest men in Boston. The guy was worth about $5 billion in 1840, which is a lot of cake, okay? And George Parkman was so rich, he had a good life, but he didn't own a horse. The guy didn't have a horse. That's like not having a car, okay? The guy's a billionaire and he doesn't have a horse, okay? So he would walk everywhere he went. He would walk all over this place right here. By the way, I don't have a car either, but I'm not a billionaire. And if I was a billionaire, I'd have a Mercedes-Benz. But anyways, this is what Parkman looked like. He was a tall, skinny guy. He was about 5'10", skinny like me. This is what he looked like. There's a drawing of him, actually. George Parkman. A nice guy. He had a big, long chin, a big chin, kind of a funny-looking guy. Kind of like a, you know what the chin like that is? Our Secretary of State, John Kerry, has a big chin. And he lives up here, by the way. So he would walk these streets. You see him walking around just like that with his hands behind his back, his little top hat, collecting rent, saying hello to people and stuff like that. He owns a ton of property up here. He's the former president of Harvard Medical College. He retired in 1842, and he opened up a small lending practice when he retired. It wasn't a loan sharking business. It was a legal thing to do back then. You could charge a little interest and lend money out. So the week before Thanksgiving, 1848, George Parkman disappears. He's gone. No one knows where he is. It's like the aliens got him, man. He just disappears. He hasn't come home for dinner at 5 o'clock at night. His wife's a little concerned because this guy's always on the dot, no matter where he is. He doesn't come home. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8, she's freaking out. 9 o'clock, oh my God, where's George? She runs to the Boston police. Now you get a grown man here missing about 4 hours, right? But the Boston police, I mean, they know it's Parkman and they know this guy is not that irresponsible, so they start looking for him. Well, they're looking all over the place for him and nobody knows where he is. A couple of days later, these signs start popping up and they're all on the street, on the lamppost. $3,000 reward for the whereabouts of George Parkman. If you notice on the bottom of that, you see Robert G. Shaw, the cut off, Shaw, Robert G. Shaw, the money is on the bottom of that. You know the guy we just met earlier? Well, his father, this guy was only about 12 years old when this happened. His father put the money up for the reward. They had money, they were all friends, so $3,000 reward was a ton of cake back then to find this guy. No one knows where he is, okay? So actually on Thanksgiving Day, 1848, this guy, his name is Ephraim Littlefield. He's the janitor of Harvard Medical College. Ephraim Littlefield also moonlights as a resurrection man. You know what that is? A guy who would go to freshly dug graves and dig the body up and bring the body and sell them for the cadavers for medical experiments, because they're shorting the cadavers back then. It's a quite lucrative business if you can kind of handle doing that. He runs in the police station going, I found a leg, I found a leg, I found a dry leg. And they go, what are you talking about? He found a severed leg down in the basically sewer of a man named John Webster, who's a chemistry professor at the college. This is John Webster right here. I'll show you him. He's a professor, and he was known by his students as Skyrocket Jack, right there. And the reason why they called him Skyrocket Jack is because he had a big interest in pyrotechnics, and he would incorporate fireworks into his lectures. Awesome. That's pretty cool, actually. Outside, hopefully, not inside. So they go into the laboratory, and the police, and they search around in the fireplace, and they find this. A human jawbone. This is the actual jawbone they found, the photograph of it, half burnt inside the guy's fireplace, along with some porcelain false teeth. Holy smoke. Oh, so now they're looking around some more. They see the leg in the sewer. They start digging around in his laboratory. In the back of a closet, they see a big trunk. Inside that trunk, they open it up, they find a man's torso. No head, no arms, no legs, all the organs removed, penis attached. I say that for a reason, penis attached. I don't say that for no reason. I'm not gonna say penis for no reason. Why would I say penis for no reason? It wouldn't make any sense to say penis for no reason. Penis attached. Okay, so penis attached. Okay, so now, how are we going to identify this body in 1848 of a man's torso with a penis attached? And there's no DNA evidence, there's no fingerprints or anything like that, right? Well, what they do is they estimate his height to be about 5'10". The torso is pretty hairy. He had a hairy body. So they get the guy's brother-in-law to look at the torso, who comes in and says, I don't know, man, the guy had I don't know, how am I going to identify that? So what they did is they got the wife, you see.
To identify the...
Yes, the penis.
Yeah.
Okay, see, that's always for a reason. Parkman's body, he killed Parkman. You got the president of Harvard Medical College, the former president, the richest man in Boston, being murdered, chopped up in little pieces by a chemistry professor at the same college that he works at. What it was over money. He borrowed $4,000 from Parkman and couldn't pay him back. So instead of paying him back, he killed him. He was trying to get rid of the body piece by piece. He was burning it. They found the jawbone in there and everything. You think the O.J. Simpson trial was a big deal back in the day? That's like the People's Court, okay? This was a 12-day trial in Boston where they had 55,000 people going through the trial. How'd they do that? Every 10 minutes, the Boston police would hand out a ticket and rotate people through. You had people from, England and France and reporters coming in on it was a big deal right there. During the trial, this dentist, his name is Nathan Cooley Keep, a great name, by the way, Nathan Cooley Keep, right? He's a predominant dentist. Nathan Cooley Keep, by the way, was the first person ever to use anesthesia in childbirth in 1847. 1 year after they actually discovered it, in 1846. Cooley Keep, you know whose baby he delivered? Fanny Longfellow, the wife of Henry, right? So he's a pretty cool guy. Well, he actually takes a stand, and they show him some teeth they found inside the furnace. He identified that he made those porcelain teeth for Parkman, and they showed him his jawbone and go, that's a pretty good match of George Parkman. They found this guy guilty of murder on the evidence by Nathan Cooley Keep. This is the first trial ever in American history where they actually used forensic evidence to convict a guy. No body, a torso, but no body. Again, corpus delicti. They actually convicted him of murder. It's very unusual to do that with a body. They had the thing. So this guy right here, he ended up getting hanged in 1850 at a place called Levitt Street Jail. Now, this is a huge case. I mean, it's unbelievable. This is actually the murder scene. I know it kind of looks comical, but not too funny for Parkman. It's an etching. And what happened is George Parkman walked in the lavatory. He attacked him. He strangled him. He hit him with a cane. He stabbed him. He chopped his body up in little pieces and slowly was trying to get rid of it. And Ephraim Littlefield got the $3,000. That's a lot of cash for the resurrection man, Ephraim Littlefield. He doesn't have to dig bodies up anymore. That's a lot of money back then. Woo. Now, if you want to see the crime scene, I can't take you over there, but it's at Massachusetts General Hospital. It's where the former medical college used to be. If you go over there, you're going to see two pillows from the old hospital, from the old medical school. It happened basically right there is where it happened. So it's pretty wild stuff. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff. All right, let me walk you up a little further here. I'm going to take you up the top of this hill, and I'll tell you another good story here that my friend's going to like a lot. Let's come up here, guys. Vernon Street, not end of the tree. But a couple of things I want to point out real quickly is a very classic Charles Bulfinch building. Is that right there? It's called the Nichols House. It's a museum. That's pretty much it. That's known as the Federalist style of architecture. Bulfinch, this is what he did right here, the Federalist style of architecture right here. All these buildings up here, most of them were designed by Charles Bulfinch, the ones that we're looking at here. Now, Charles Bulfinch did not want to build individual row houses. These are all row houses. Basically, the houses are all next to each other, and they're basically almost like condos, right? Charles Bulfinch wanted to build these big mansions up here with these big gardens out front. But he started building them, and they were so expensive, nobody could move into them. So they kind of made all row houses out of them. So now all these houses up here, and there's no freestanding house on Beacon Hill. They're basically all row houses. No, there's one. I'm going to show it to you. It's right down there. It's the Harrison Gary Otis house. Harrison Gary Otis was a mayor of Boston. He had Parkman money back in the day. Him and Charles Bulfinch made a fortune developing the hill. He built 3 houses for him. One of them's right here. It's 44,000 square feet. It's a freestanding house. Wait till you see it. It's unbelievable. It's still there today. I don't know who lives there. No, I know that a president of a cable company works there. It's not Comcast, but one of the cable companies live in that house, and it must be because it's massive. People always ask me, what does the row house cost you? What does the apartments cost you? What does the condos cost you? Well, you're looking at $2 million for a cheap one, and up to about $6 million for a nicer one. For row houses, you know what I mean? So it's a very expensive neighborhood, what I'm saying. Because for $2 million, even around here, you start getting on the suburb, you can buy a beautiful mansion out there. But anyway, so that's what it is. Okay, so a couple things I want to tell you. Now, this Mount Vernon Street here, if you look on old maps of Boston, right, this Mount Vernon Street is actually called Mount Hordem. Mount Hordem, because in the back of the hill over here, as you go to the west end, which is kind of rough and tumble place, and if you keep going that way, you go to what used to be called the west end neighborhood, kind of rough and tumble, where a lot of the houses of prostitution were, brothels and things, and they'd be up there. So I swear to God, if you look in the old map, it's Mount Hordem, and actually, it brings me to this story here of a man named Thomas Corbett, also known as Boston Corbett. Has anyone heard of Boston Corbett? I knew you heard of Boston Corbett. He did something really famous. Boston Corbett His name is Thomas Corbett. He comes to Boston in 1851. And when he gets to Boston, he finds God in Boston. He found God in Boston, okay? I've been living there all my life, all right? I mean, I haven't found him. You know what I think God might be, by the way? I don't know. I'm just guessing here. I think God might be in prison. And I'll tell you why I say that. I meet people who come out of prison, they go, I found God in prison. That's really good, you know what I mean? Anyway, so he finds God in Boston. So he's so excited about finding God in Boston, he's not Thomas Corbett anymore, he changed his name to Boston Corbett, where he found his religion, okay? And he's a really kind of a guy, he's like a John the Baptist guy, always like kind of preaching, going crazy. He would stand up there on Mount Horton and preach to the prostitutes about the evil of prostitution. One night he was, and they would laugh at him, make fun of him, and sometimes throw things at him. He was a nut, right? Well, no, I shouldn't say nut, but he kind of was. So he's up there, and so one night he was up there, and he saw a prostitute up there, and he had a feeling for this prostitute. Okay, he had a feeling for this prostitute. How do I explain this feeling to you all? Guys probably know what I'm talking about, okay? But, you know, women, I know you have the same feeling, but guys, it's crazy, okay? So, here's this feeling for the prostitute, right? And he doesn't like that feeling at all. He's all freaked out about this feeling, right? So Boston Corbett, he goes home and he's like, oh my God, I shouldn't have these feelings. I'm a religious man. He goes into his kitchen, he grabs a pair of scissors, and he castrates himself. Did you know that about Boston Corbett?
Oh, yeah.
He castrated him. Holy smoke. And does he go to the hospital after the cat? Oh, sorry, kids. I didn't see them there, you know. Anyways, I don't even know what that means. Anyway, so does he go to the hospital after that? No, he's Boston Corbett. He goes to a prayer meeting, then he goes to have a nice steak dinner, then he says, oh my God, I'm still bleeding, I better get this checked out. He goes to Mass General Hospital. What do you do for the guy at that point? You know what I mean? They give him a band-aid, send him home. All right, let's fast forward real quickly. 1861, Boston Corbett, the Civil War breaks out, right? Boston Corbett enlists into the Union Army. He's a crack shot, he's a sniper, he's a really good shot. He was kind of a pain in the neck, though, in the camps because he'd be preaching to God about you all the time, but he was a really good shot. You're good to have on your side. All right, 1865 rolls around, April 15th, 1865, what happens? President Abraham Lincoln is assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth was not caught that night, you know. He's on the run for 12 days. He's running down south. He's going to have a assembly down there. They catch him in Virginia. They surround him in a tobacco barn. And John Wilkes Booth is in the tobacco barn surrounded by members of the Union Army. One of them in the posse is none other than Boston Corbett. Now, the official thing is catch this guy alive because he may have co-conspirators, he's a terrorist, you want to interrogate him, kill him if you have to. Now he's surrounded by the Union Army. So they go, John, come out of that barn, we're going to get him out of that barn, surrounded. John's like, I'm not coming out of that barn, no way, I'm not coming out. So they light the barn on fire. I'm telling you something, John Wilkes Booth is going to run out of that barn. No one's going to sit in there and cook like a lobster, okay? They don't. Before he gets a chance to come out of the barn, this nut Corbett sees him to a slat in the thing, a great shot. Corbett said he saw him pointing a gun, I don't know. Boom! He shoots him right to the neck. They go in, they drag him out. He lives about 2.5 hours, paralyzed from the neck down. All Booth could do is this. Good enough for him. That's what he gets for shooting Lincoln. He dies. Corbett gets a small bounty for the killing. He ends up, a year later, running through the streets, I believe it was in Wisconsin, totally naked, shooting guns over his head. They grab him, they put him in the insane asylum where he belongs. 1 year later, he escapes the insane asylum, steals a horse, rides out from the sunset, never to be seen again. Lewisburg Square is pound for pound the most expensive place in America to live. And I say that because these are not mansions, they're basically row houses, condos like the one we were just in. These condos here will start for a cheap one at $6 million, and for the more expensive ones, they go up, you can go up as high as $20 million, okay? That's big money, right? For a house, no, condo, I'm sorry, or row house, whatever you call it. Now, our Secretary of State, John Kerry, lives on Lewisburg Square, and if you look down where the American flag is hanging, it's never flying, it's always twirled around the thing for some reason. That's his house right there. Usually when he's home, it's very obvious. You have the state police here, you get the Secret Service down there. He was actually home one night when I was doing this tour. And I actually took the tour by. I said, let's go see John Kerry, see if we can see him. And I went down there and I asked the Secret Service, hey, is John Kerry there? Is he coming out soon? I want to see his chin. And they were like, get out of here, you know what I mean? Yeah, get away from me, you know. So we were all laughing, they didn't think it was funny. Secret Service are kind of scary, so he didn't come out, so anyway. Anyway, that park right there is for Lewisburg Square residents only. Okay, they had their own key to the gate. Now, we could all jump over that little fence. It's nothing to it. It's about 6 feet tall. We could go in there and sit down. I could tell you stories about Corbett and all that stuff. But what would happen, in 5 minutes, the Boston police would come here and they would beat us like Rodney King. So we don't want to do that, okay? So we'll stay out of that park. But, so before I move you on, I just want to tell you one thing. There's a house. I doubt that's a Beacon Hill resident right there, although it might be, but I doubt it. It might be, I don't. Actually, one thing about this place, though, if you notice, the cars are pretty modest considering the money they have up here. You don't have a lot of Mercedes, you don't have a lot of Lexus. You have basically, regular cars. It's kind of interesting. You don't even need a car up here, by the way, anyway, everything's here, but anyway. Alright, so what I want to show you, if you look far down there at that red door, that street right there is called Pinckney Street. It's on the other side of John Kerry's house. That red door is 81 Pinckney Street. And 81 Pinckney Street, and I'd walk over there, but I won't go down here, and that's just kind of, you can see it there, you don't need to go over there. 81 Pinckney Street, in 1962, lived a woman by the name of Suzanne Cliff. Suzanne Cliff had a really famous uncle. His name was Montgomery Cliff. Does anyone know who Montgomery Cliff was? I know we know who he was. Montgomery Cliff was a handsome man. Montgomery Cliff was a leading man in Hollywood. Montgomery Cliff got in a really bad car accident at the peak of his career and ruined his face. And so he tried to get plastic surgery, but it's never the same. He ended up being addicted to drug and alcohols. He was actually gay. But he wouldn't come out of the closet because back then you couldn't do that, especially as a movie star, because it was ridiculous. They kind of wouldn't let you do it. I have a picture of Montgomery Cliff, and the ladies are going to be going, shh, they're going to be swooning. Watch this. He's a beautiful man. I wish I looked like Montgomery Cliff. There's Montgomery Cliff. Oh, she likes Montgomery Cliff. How can you not like Montgomery Cliff, man? The guy's beautiful, right? I even like him, you know what I mean? Montgomery Cliff, by the way, famously had an affair with the actor Rodney McDowell, right? The English actor Rodney McDowell. He broke the affair off at Rodney McDowell, and Rodney McDowell was so distraught he tried to kill himself over it, okay? Monty, okay? Alright, here's his niece, Suzanne Cliff. She's 20 years old. His niece lived in that house over there with her grandmother who owned the Columbia. Her grandmother was down on Cape Cod on vacation, and she was in there with her boyfriend, a son of an Italian diplomat, 27 years old, he was 20. She was 20. Well, they had dinner that night, everything's cool. Well, the boyfriend gets tired, he takes his clothes off, he goes to the bedroom, he goes to lay down and take a little nap for himself. Suzanne Cliff stayed in the living room that night, and she picked up a .22 caliber pistol that she borrowed from a friend in Philadelphia with the intent on committing suicide with it. So she took the gun, and she put it to her head, and she thought about it for a second, and put it back down, and then put it in her mouth, and thought about it for a second, and put it back down, and put it back to her head, but she just couldn't bring herself to pull the trigger. About an hour this goes by where she's contemplating suicide. So instead of putting the gun down and unloading and forget about the night, she walked into the bedroom to her sleeping boyfriend and put it about an inch away from his head and pulled the trigger and blew his brains out all over the hardwood floor at 81 Pinckney Street. Then she went into the kitchen and got a butcher knife and came back into the bedroom with her dead boyfriend and she castrated him. Then she went and put the butcher knife away and she went back to the bedroom and lay down on the bed next to her dead boyfriend and slept the night there. Wow. Yeah, and then she woke up the next morning, all refreshed, and she went to the hardware store down the street and bought a padlock with a lock and screwed it onto the bedroom door and locked the guy in the bedroom door. 10 days later, then she went to a taxi, went to Logan Airport and took a plane to Brazil. 10 days later, the grandma come home and found the decomposed body of this guy, castrated and blood all over the place. Not a good thing. She comes back about 2 weeks later, takes a cab to Massachusetts General Hospital, where she checks herself into the psych ward, and she's crying and she's all upset and everything, and the police are called. The Boston police show up and they interview her, and she calmly relates the details of the murder, even more calmly than I'm talking to you today about it. Well, Suzanne Cliff obviously has some issues, right? So Suzanne Cliff, on the day of her first hearing, 2 days later, she shows up with her lawyer. There were about 100 young girls, about 15 to 16 years old, you know, checking her out, saying she's awesome, because she's kind of like a star to these people for some reason. I don't know, whatever, you know. And so, but she doesn't say anything at the trial. She wouldn't even put a plea in. So the lawyer kind of speaks for her and says not guilty. Well, she shows up 5 months later for her trial. She's 5 months pregnant with the guy's baby. And all she says is, I want to keep the baby. It's all I have left, a piano. Well, the judge, you know, she goes to the trial. they plead insanity, and it's not a bad plea because that's what she was. And so the judge finds her, not criminally negligent by reading insanity. However, she sentences her to an insane asylum until they deem it's okay to release her. 10 years later, she is released from the insane asylum, and she ends up spending the rest of her life down in Louisiana. Now, no one asked me about the baby. That's kind of funny. Usually women, the baby. She had a baby girl, by the way. She had a baby in the insane ward, and it was put up for adoption. But anyways, it happened right over there on the other side where John Kerry House lived, and that's unbelievable. So poor Montgomery, man, he had enough troubles, and then his knee goes and blows the guy's brains out, and then that's pretty crazy stuff right there. All right, it is crazy. Isn't that nuts? That's like crazy. I wonder if John Kerry knows that. I should go check. He probably knows it. It was a pretty famous case, and he's old enough.
He might have got a discount on the house.
Yeah, maybe, because the next door. Yeah, maybe. I don't, yeah, he maybe. He doesn't care about money anyway. That guy gets more money than all of us put together times 10, you know what I mean? They got tons of cash. But yeah, that's pretty crazy right there. That's unbelievable. My father remembers that story. He remembers that. All right, I'm going to take you on down. I'm going to get the Boston Strangler. I know you're saying, where's the Boston Strangler, Brian? We're getting in there soon. We're going to get there now. I want to take you first to a bit of a change of pace now. I'm going to take you next to the most photographed street in Boston. This is a beautiful street. It's called Acon Street. I don't know if you've ever seen it before in photographs, but it's pretty amazing. Now, I find it hard to believe that's the most photographed street in Boston. It's wicked hard to find, all right? The first time I found it, somebody showed me it. This is way back before I was doing tours. I came back to show my girlfriend. I couldn't find it, you know what I mean? So, I'm going to show you where it is. It's awesome. It's like pretty cool stuff. And then I'll get the Boston Strangler territory. And I didn't tell you this. I forgot to tell you this. We are ending this tour in jail. We're going to jail. I'm going to take you to jail. I can get you inside the jail. It's easy to get in. It's hard to get out. But I'll get you in. That's all that matters. Sorry. Go on. Alright, so I'm going to stop right here real quickly. I do want to show you this interesting shop. This is my favorite shop on the whole Charles Street. Nah. Yes, it is. This guy sells mostly doorknobs and door knockers. This guy has been around, I don't know when he was established, but before I was born. I used to walk in there and talk to him just because he was so weird, you know what I mean? I like people like that. But he's a cool guy. If you ever see him in here, go and talk to him. It's kind of cool. I like Jordan Knobs too, by the way, so I kind of have a connection there, but I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. But you know, he makes money from the people and they're not cheap, so. Alright, so you have a knocker store here. This is the knocker store. And right next to the knocker store, interestingly enough, we have a bra shop. That's really good. That's really weird. That's really strange. That's weird. You got a little purpose. Alright. The Brits like that because that's the Brits like that. Undergraduate student in the 1950s who rolled across that bridge from Cambridge into Boston, and they measured them because MIT loves to measure people. And there's all those spooks. And whenever they redo the bridge, they repaint the spooks. So it's kind of a legend thing. Hi. Everybody here? We're here. Cool. Okay. This building behind me here is the former Charles Street Jail. This building right here was built in 1851 by J. Fox Bryant, a great architect. He said that's his best building. He built this jail on a 1790 prison reform plan known as the Auburn Plan, which allowed prisoners the first time to really contemplate rehabilitation. Prior to that, they would just throw you in a dungeon, and that's where you sit if you were arrested. He built it on a 90-foot dome up there. You see that up there. And he put the wings in a big X. And that way, you can separate prisoners by not only class of crime, but by sexes, men and women. There were 220 two-man cells in this place, 8 by 10 cells. That's good, because you don't have isolation, which is why you're insane. You have someone talking. 1851, which is not a bad place to be for jail. Let's fast forward to 1973, when it's still the main jail in Suffolk County. You guys know the difference between jail and prison, right? Jail is where you go when you're arrested, a prison is when you do your time, okay? So if you're waiting for your trial to take a bill, it's who you are. The conditions were so deplorable in 1973 with rats and roaches. They had over 1,000 inmates in a place that holds 440. It was nasty. It was forced closed by the federal government. People were actually confessing the crimes to go to prison to get out of this place, all right? That's how bad it was. We don't close it until 1990, okay? Because we had to build a new jail. And we have a beautiful place now, the National Street Jail, it is now. So now we're closing down, and I think they're going to tear it down. No, because Massachusetts General Hospital buys the place that's next door. Massachusetts General Hospital, by the way, the largest hospital in New England, opened up in 1811, and they're always building. They don't tear it down, they they tear the wall down that's here, and they got the building out, leaving the structure the same on the outside, those bars and the windows are still the bars of jail. On the inside, the rest of the cells intact. They renamed it the Liberty Hotel. They built a 294 luxury hotel on top of the jail. It's a really expensive hotel. The presidential suite is $5,500 a night. President Bill Clinton stayed there one night. I'm not sure who he was with, but he stayed there one night. And also Mick Jagger was in there, and 50 Cent? 50 Cent? You know his cousin, a buck and a quarter? There's a guy all about change. Anyway, so the luxury hotel. But they made 3 different lounges. There's 2 lounges in a restaurant. One lounge is called the Swing. The other one is called Alibi. That's one over there, the bottom one. And there's a restaurant called Campbell's, an Italian restaurant. Campbell's in the States. If you walk inside Alibi with the old trunk thing, there's a big steel doors back there. Behind the door, you still have trunks, but not the ones that you would see in jail. You have people back there drinking with the bar back there. The Clink is pretty cool too. As you go up the escalator, you decide to go in there. You can see when the chairs of the cells here. What they did, they ripped them out, they widened them on chairs, and they got tables up there for you to get the drink. There's a little museum in there, it's pretty cool. It's called the Liberty Hotel. A great place to the tour. Now that gate right there is the original door of the prison yard. You go through that gate, and no fun in that place right there. You come on the other side. Albert the Father Strangle was held there. Also, a U-boat submarine captured during World War II. The Germans off the coast of Boston, and they held them in the middle of prison. James Buckle Curley, one of our mayors, were held in there. James Buckle Curley was people loved him in Boston. He was in 30 years of politics, 1950. He was re-elected in 1947 as mayor of Boston from his jail cell at the Charles Street Jail. That's how popular this guy was. Okay, he's a great guy. But it's a really good place to check out on your own if you want to check it out. Here's where I end this crime tour on the outside of jail. If you want to go in there, but I can't get you out. Actually, no, it's fine. It's a good place to lay out of there. It's pretty good.
I gotta go get a selfie stick. Everyone wants to get a selfie.